Now I'll detail the characteristic phase traits of each of the phases which I have outlined. High stationary phase. Now this is a phase, the first phase of a country's population development story, the country's population development journey, where the birth rate and the death rate is high, therefore the gap is low and hence the population is high. High birth rate coupled with high death rate. Both the constituents of population dynamics are high. People lived at subsistence level only. That means this was a stage when there was not much development, not much agricultural, industrial or any other social development. So people lived at a subsistence level. People lived in natural vicissitudes. Whatever the nature provided them, they made adjustment according to the seasonal variations of the availability of natural phenomena and lived accordingly. There was no universal public health service, one of the reasons why death rate was very high. Mortality due to endemic and outbreak of pestilence were common. Death rate was high because there was outbreak of epidemics and pestilence. The population equilibrium was maintained by high natality. Natality means birth rate, and high mortality, death rate. So both the constituents were very high. This is the beginning of any country's stage of population growth. Every country has passed through this phase. How long the span of this phase depends how much the development of the country is. If the country can break out of the vicious circle of underdevelopment and come out of it fast, then this stage will also change fast into the subsequent stage. The next one is early expanding phase. Now this was a period where the countries embarked upon the initiation, the beginning of certain developments, and therefore the birth rate remained high. Birth rate remaining high is also an attribute of social factor and attitude of people. It's not always decided, it's not always outlined by external factors. So the birth rate remained high, fertility rate was high, but there was a slightly falling death rate. And why was there a slightly falling death rate? That was because of improving agricultural methods like crop rotation, development and application of fertilizers and irrigation, leading to assured food supply. So an assured food supply will cause your fertility rate to be high and will reduce the mortality rate because people have a better condition of living. Founding of machine industries, the setting up of, the laying up of industries helped people to give them employment, helped people to earn better, helped people to live a better living than the previous stage. So all these factors contributed to the birth rate remaining high, but the death rate coming down. Beginning of elementary sanitation facilities. This stage also saw the emergence of public sanitation facilities. This is another contributory factor for controlling the death rate. The death rate fell and it was not as high as it was in the previous stage. The birth rate also fell, but marginally. And what happened? The gap between the birth rate and the death rate started expanding, and hence population started expanding. Now come to the third phase, late expanding phase. With gradual improvement of agriculture, the stage for the development of agriculture and industry was already set. This stage, the third stage, the late expanding stage, is a stage where this development was carried on further. With gradual improvement of agriculture, industry, trade, commerce, transport, employment, and slow but definite improvement, this should be but definite improvement of standard of living, the birth rate started showing decline. So these are all the reasons why the standard of living improved and the birth rate started showing a decline.